All right, guys, what's up? Thank you for clicking on the video. So, lots to talk about in this one. Kind of really going to upfront address why I haven't done any driving videos with the Z06. There's a very specific reason, so I decided to pull out my C6R BBS. This is a 13-inch wide front wheel that goes on these C6Rs that raced at Le Mans in 2011. Actually wrecked down there, but basically wanted to highlight what's going on and why I haven't been able to do the pops and bangs video, the C5Z versus LS3 comparison video, and more. And it has to do with some insurance problems. So guys, I'm going to give you a lot of tips and hints, a lot of things you need to know if you're ever faced with an insurance claim, and especially an insurance claim that has to do with maybe a slightly classic car, which this starts to approach for very specific reasons. So if you're a Corvette owner, classic car guy, you want to stick around, you're watching KnightDriveTV. So guys, let me briefly tell you what happened and what led to this situation. So I was about a half a mile from home here driving in my Z06. Basically was traveling, no cars around me. It's a 3-lane wide road that kind of cuts through the north section of Vegas. I approached an intersection and I saw a Mercedes basically turn into my path, seemingly didn't see me. I took evasive action to basically brake and move over and away from the vehicle. Don't ask me why, but she accelerated and basically T-bone struck me, trying to make a U-turn into my path and go to a business that was on my side of the road. So basically, we pulled off of the side of the road into a parking lot. I wasn't injured. She wasn't injured. We looked at both of the vehicles, kind of, just wanted to take a look at the damage. Quite frankly, the amount of impact that her vehicle had into mine, I really expected the side of my car to be gone. I was very surprised when I looked at it that it absorbed the impact tremendously well. I could hear cracking and fracturing around me. But obviously the C5 Z06 they made of SMC, which is basically a compound that has fiberglass plastic. I don't know, I don't make it, but essentially looked at her car, looked at mine, and decided, we're not injured. I said, look, just be upfront with me. Do you have insurance? She said, yes, I just got insurance. I can't believe this happened. So, I was relieved. I said, so you definitely have insurance? She said, yes. Let's be clear about a few things. And guys, I always want to point you out to the fact that in the description, there is a timeline of subject matter, as well as if you're on your phone and you pull up your screen and you have a video, if you touch the title below, it will open up all the content. So please utilize that so you can understand all the subjects I'm going to go through, which I think are very important to anybody involved in a situation very similar to this or exactly like this. So basically, I verified all her information, and there was some comments on the forum about the legalities of the fact that I did not call the police and how important and imperative a police report is. Basically, I'm not going to say that you should not get a police report if that's your choice, if that's your prerogative, but many states and places specifically like Vegas, because the Metropolitan Police Department is as large as it is, when you call basically 911, they screen you somewhat. And if your situation doesn't require immediate police involvement, basically they'll tell you to self-report. In this situation, the situation is in Nevada that if there are no injuries and no fatalities and you're not obstructing traffic and there's no immediate danger, they're not going to respond. So there is no legal obligation to file a police report. In some cases, it will lock in the facts and avoid a he said, she said scenario. In this particular instance, she was admitting very openly that she was at fault, that she didn't see me, and that she pulled in front of me. So I had that basically recorded. So I had her acknowledgement. I had enough proof, evidence, pictures, and things like that. And another thing which I've done in the past is she gave her information to me, but I did not give my information to her. That's just something I've done before in similar scenarios, because I think that shows very clearly that someone is admitting fault and not questioning whether I need to turn over my documentation. So that's how I left the scene. So let's just dismiss the police report as being a specific and required element in this particular scenario. What had ended up happening at that point was I contacted her insurance company, and this is something I've always done in the past. If I'm clearly not at fault, I've never been in an at-fault accident. I've always been the victim of someone else's negligence or something like that. So I always call their insurance company. So we're going to talk about first party and third party. If you're a first party claimant, you're filing a basic claim against your own insurance company. If you're a third party claimant, you're basically claiming against someone else's insurance that they are liable to you for damages or loss. In third party claim scenarios, you have different rights. I'll just say, I won't say more or less, I'll say different. Basically, with a third party scenario, you have a right to a rental, you have a right to loss of use, diminished values. You have a position to really negotiate your position and get what you're owed, in the sense you have no deductible, things like that. Now, if you're a first party claimant, whether you're claiming uninsured motorist coverage if somebody else hits you and is not insured, or you have run into a telephone pole or something like that, you have a deductible. You have a duty to cooperate with your insurance company. So it can change the dynamics of how the settlement is completed. In this situation, I've always felt more comfortable as a third party. I've never been a first party, so I don't know, but I will just say that I felt comfortable moving forward as a third party claimant. So the next step I'm going to talk about is that duty to cooperate. Once I submitted the claim with this insurance company, they immediately contacted me, and right off the bat, they said, "We don't think we're going to cover this." Their position is that she just obtained insurance that day. And so that kind of added a complexity to it. She did tell me she had just obtained the policy. She was not on the phone with the insurance company when I was standing there with her. And she did provide a valid insurance card. So there was no reason for me to believe that she had somehow obtained that insurance after the incident occurred. I expected the insurance company to maybe question that. And so I didn't really find it too alarming. 2 days later, they contacted me and they said, yeah, we're probably not going to cover this, and you should probably just file a claim with your own insurance company. And essentially, there is a contractual agreement between parties when you sign with an insurance company, and that is that you'll cooperate with them to help them defend their position, and not essentially not pay claims, but basically if you are in a collision where there's a dispute, you have an obligation to work with them to help them defend you. And they have an obligation to defend you in the event that there is a claim made. So basically it's a contract. It's a two-way agreement. And when somebody breaches that, there have been cases where insurance companies have attempted to sidestep liability by claiming that their client wasn't cooperating. And without their client's cooperation, they can't make basically a determination of fault. And I can tell you that in the state of Nevada, that's been dismissed by the court repeated times. I have advised the claims handler of that. So that's going to be another issue that's set aside. And so that's where we're going to talk about a duty to investigate. So an insurance company generally, now you must know that each state laws vary. And so you should always check in your exact state what your state laws are, because insurance is governed in a state-to-state basis based on that state's particular laws and codes. But there's a lot of similarities. Basically, in the state of Nevada, we have what's called at fault. And basically, what the insurance company's goals are is to determine who is at fault. Now, you have some states that are no-fault states, to where fault is kind of shared between parties on some percentage level. Nobody particularly is blamed 100%. Well, Nevada is an at-fault state. Here, you are 100% liable. You are determined based on the investigation, and it has to be a fair and complete investigation. It has to be done within a certain time frame. Basically, it has to be in good faith, though as a third party, you can't claim bad faith against a lawsuit in the state of Nevada. You can't have a bad faith lawsuit because there is no contract between a third party and the insurer. That would be something that a first party would do with their own insurance company. Say if you had a claim, you hit the pole, they denied you, and you felt that they were not paying in bad faith, then you could sue them for that. So basically, my position is that they had a duty to investigate, and I said, I think you need to do that. You need to contact your insured. You need to speak with her. If you have any doubts about the timing, I think that's up to her and you to determine, not up to me. I provided all the information I was able and willing to provide, so at this point, I've incurred loss, and that's where we stand. When you speak to a claims adjuster in a third-party scenario, you do have to be careful what you say, because they essentially will use your words against you. So you have to be very precise and to the point. And so that's something that's very important. I gave a very matter-of-fact recollection of what happened. I provided photos. I was very cooperative, and so I felt I had fulfilled my requirement. Essentially, what went on from there is that I hadn't heard anything from this insurance company. They hadn't acknowledged the claim by mail. They hadn't sent me anything. So this kind of prompted a scenario which is called a proof of loss form. And basically, this can vary again state to state. In some states, the time clock for an insurance company to handle your claim does not begin until there's a proof of loss. Now, I've found that this is generally first-party claims, not third-party. Third-party tends to be, as long as you notify and submit the claim, there's a reasonable time frame that exists. So the situation I'm in is that 30 days have passed and I have heard nothing from the insurance company. They have not sent me any mail. They have not done anything, not even called me since November 10th. So what I then did, and you should do in this particular type of scenario, is look into your state's governing agency over insurance companies. In Nevada, it is the Department of Insurance. The Department of Insurance has a claims process to submit a claim against someone that is basically violating Nevada state law, which is the case in my situation. So I did submit that claim. I have an investigator assigned to that, but they have 28 days now to respond to that. So essentially, that's the phase I'm in. So I did submit that complaint, and now today I've sent a certified demand letter. And that demand letter basically has to be a few things. And what you're doing essentially is you're telling the insurance company, if you do not comply with my demand, I'm going to have to be forced to file a lawsuit. So essentially what is in that demand letter is basically my name, the claim number, the date of incident. I did put a recollection, again, a statement of fact, as things occurred and the events took place. And then I also made an essential claim or complaint against the, I keep almost saying the company. I did make a complaint or claim as to what I felt that they were doing that was outside of the bound of law and basically fair dealing. I itemized that, and I did put the amount that I was demanding specifically and what that amount was. Now, essentially, you don't want to be, you don't want to seem as if you're trying to become opportunistic here. You want to submit a demand that is something you can prove that is a legitimate loss. You don't want to fluff that number in a ridiculous manner, because it will obviously, you want to be fair to the sense that you don't want to cut yourself short. And this is where you should be very bold with your claim, because you know what they're going to do in response is basically try to underpay that claim. But you should be very upfront and forward, and you should basically be aggressive with that initial demand. In my opinion, I'm not an attorney, but that's what I've done in the past. So essentially, that's where I am at this point. I will have to update, and I will probably put that update video in the description when it's available and when there is a conclusion to this situation. But let me get to the Corvette side of things, and my viewers and things that know that I was going to do a Pops and Bangs video. I was going to do a C5Z versus LS3 for some time, kept getting delayed, and now I still am not able to make it. So basically, the car felt like it took the impact fairly well, but essentially, I do feel like I have some rear suspension issues, so I haven't been driving the car. I am continuing to develop the headlight kit and other things, which you've seen in a prior video, and that's fine. I can do development on the car to a small degree, but I did have an agreement to body scan this entire car, and I can't do it now. So basically, my real concern is the aperture panel. And the aperture panel basically is the door sill and everything behind the door. That's bonded to the Corvette chassis, and GM doesn't make that part anymore. And because they're bonded, they're very hard to extract. So finding one intact is basically impossible. So this is what's going to bring into question. The insurance company has a duty to put my vehicle back to a condition that it was in prior to the accident. And they have to do that using OEM parts, and if they don't, they have to disclose that to me. So, and then there's a diminished value proposition and things like that to come into play. My concern is that it's probably going to be totaled. It's not something that I want, but I think from a perspective of what I'm owed, I think that's going to be the case. So I'm going to have to basically face some negotiations ahead and see what happens and how this all plays out. It's my belief that the insurance company is trying to basically do three things, and it's the 3 Ds of insurance claims. It's delay, deny, and I never remember the third D. I never remember the third D because they always delay and deny. They don't do the third thing. Defend. They defend. They do the third thing. So insurance companies always do the 3 Ds, and it's basically delay, deny, and defend. And that's their obligation. So I understand their business position. I understand their concern with the date. And that's all plausible, but there's a point to where it becomes harmful. And so we'll see what happens here. I wanted to give everybody an explanation as to why I haven't been doing driving content. Obviously, it affects the channel, and it affects how much content I put out and how I put it out. So in closing, I'll basically just say that it is not my intent to get rid of the car. I actually don't want to, but I will not be wronged, and I will not be harmed in any way as a result of this situation. Now, I will make clear that I was fully insured. I am fully insured. I have insurance through the Corvette Museum, actually. So if you have a Corvette or a collector car, I would encourage you to check the Corvette Museum. And Adam Boca, who I've met many times over the years, he's been there God knows how long, maybe since birth. I don't know. I feel like he's always been there. But essentially, they say I'm covered. If there is a denial of this claim, basically, they will step up, and they've expressed that to me. So they have been involved in the process, but at this point, the claim is not open with them. Essentially, I'm going to wait and hold and see where this goes, because the fact is she impacted me. I'm not at fault, and I did obtain proof of insurance, and that proof, seems to clearly convey that the insurance company is liable. The fact that they don't like the timing of it is not my problem. So briefly, let me talk about classic cars and an incident that I didn't really realize until I had a 1986 BMW and a tree had fallen on it. I'd made a third-party claim against the homeowner's insurance of the person I rented from. Essentially, the difficulty in that claim actually took several months, was that no body shops wanted to work on the car. And typically, body shops are equipped to work on something that's, I won't say 10 years or newer, it depends on the car, but typically they don't like to get into what's like classic era. When you start to approach 20 years old, 25, and in that sense, that was a 1986 BMW in 2015, the windshields come out with the press-in seals. Things are built a lot different, and there are no OEM parts. This is where insurance policies that are with like Haggerty and things like that, where they will source original parts. They have guys that are on staff. So I've been told. I haven't experienced this, but they advertise that they have people that will assist in obtaining parts, OEM parts from either swap meets or resources that they have. I actually had to source the original windshield for that BMW and the seals. It was a very complex fix, and essentially the insurance company and I got in a stalemate because they couldn't find a body shop that would fix it. And I was tasked by the insurance company to find my own body shop, and clearly that was very difficult. And so I applied pressure, sent a demand letter to them, and they basically signed a contract with a BMW certified repair facility to fix this vehicle. And so it did take some time. They painted it 3 times in the process to get it right, but it was extremely nice when it was done. So that's kind of the difficulty with with this car as well, is there are some facets of this as it pertains to the tub, the aperture panel, and things like that, to where you can run into difficulty. So these issues, even though damage doesn't look that significant, could be something that would total the vehicle. So in this scenario, my insurance company and I have come to an agreed value, and that's a huge benefit of the NCM Corvette insurance that's through AMIG. You submit pictures, you show what you've invested, and they can come to an agreed value. And so I'll see how I can leverage that against this third-party claim, because my assumption is that they're going to, if they do determine it's unrepairable, they're going to seek some type of not a book value, and it's not going to align with my agreed policy value, because this car is modified, and AMIG is aware of that. My policy and pricing reflects that. So I'm protected for the full value of my investment. So that's a huge advantage in a first-party scenario. And so basically, when you look at a totaling event or an event that will total a vehicle, generally it's about 65 to 75%. If the estimate says it's 65 to 75% of what the appraised value is by the adjuster or the person that looks at it, that will be a totaling event to where they will attempt to basically pay you out and take the car. So in this sense, because I have a much higher agreed value, my 75% goes up. So essentially the issue is not going to be what it costs to repair this. It's going to be the fact that there's a lack of OEM body parts available, and that's going to turn into basically an unrepairable situation. So, or a repair situation that isn't proper and heavily diminishes the value of the vehicle. So it's going to be very complex moving forward. We're going to see what happens, but that's an update, guys. I wanted to let everybody know that's why I don't have driving videos going on. It's because literally the car can't be driven. So catch you on the next one. I do have some updates. This has unfortunately affected other things and other projects on the channel. I don't think if you're one of my Pathfinder guys, you're watching this, but hey, if you are, all this definitely applies to a Pathfinder and to certain classic vehicles, old 4Runners, things I've had on the channel. If somebody basically hits that or impacts that vehicle, it's not going to take much to total those. So it's always something to be aware of. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you on the next one.